Greetings everyone, this is Tanya. I love iodine. This week we're talking about autumn olive. Disclaimer, I am not responsible for any injuries or illness that result from your actions. You're responsible to do your own research and most importantly use your common sense. This information is brought to you solely as an educational guide with the best of intentions. It is imperative to always properly identify a plant as safe before you even touch it, let alone consume it. Use this information along with quality field guides, other reliable sources, and or a knowledgeable forager to assist you. With that out of the way, let's talk about a really awesome plant that you can forage, and it's about getting ready for it to be that time. It is mid-August right now, so this is the time to get out there and start identifying this one because these fruits are already on the shrub and they are going to be ripening and ready for peak harvest in the upcoming weeks. This is a shrub that was brought here in the 1800s for erosion control. This is not something that's native to here. Now, we have learned that when we have brought species from other continents to North America and vice versa, this has been usually not turned out as good as we expected. That's another topic for another day. But if we can forage these berries, these fruits actually is what they are. They're not technically berries. They're actually drupes. So they're like more closely related to a stone fruit, if you will. But they are not that because these we can actually eat the seeds. That's totally fine as well. But if we collect these, then it's not going to have the seeds to be spreading through the environment, and then it's not going to keep spreading. So that's one good thing that we can do. Now, autumn olive, it is not an olive. It's not in the same family. It's not related. It's just that it looks like olives to some whenever especially it starts, and it's the unripe fruit. It is a small green. We'll look at some pictures of that. Now, this is going to flower June through July. It's going to have small four-petaled, not technically petals, but for our purposes, we'll call them that. To our eyes, it looks like it. I think they're actually sepals, but that's neither here nor there. And the fruits are going to appear after the flower, of course, and that's going to July through September. Now, they can persist on the plant later on, even into the winter, depending on where they're located, so don't be surprised by that. Commonly, it's also called Japanese silverberry. It is from Asia, or Umbellata, or spreading Oleaster. It is in the Oleaster family. The technical name of that is Elaeagnaceae. And the genus and the species of this is Elaeagnus umbellata. There is another plant called Russian olive. It is in the same genus. That is also introduced in the United States. You might find that as well. That's also edible in the exact same way. We're going to look at that as well. It is not common where I am. I'm in the eastern United States. This is much more common. That is more common in the western United States. But depending on where you are, you might actually have both. Now, one of the key characteristics of this one, because we have to look out for some lookalikes, we don't want to confuse it with a honeysuckle, we don't want to confuse it with an American or Oriental bittersweet, and we don't want to confuse it with a vine known as the bittersweet nightshade. It's very easy to rule these out based on a few key characteristics that we need to make sure that we have checked off our list for a proper identification. Firstly, if you'll see those flowers, those are very distinctive, then you know to come back. But there's actually other things that make this much easier. If you look at the fruits here, they have these little silver scales on them. Nothing else, to my knowledge, has it. Especially the honeysuckles, they're going to be just solid, and they could be red, they could be orange, they could be like a dark purple. So if we were looking at like the bush honeysuckle, they're often red, but they're not going to have the silvery scales. So there's one identification. Plus, another way to differentiate is this one has alternate leaves and honeysuckles are opposite. Very key. So we're going to be looking for simple leaves. The margins are going to be smooth or entire. Now, they are kind of wavy, so some of the illustrations that we may see, it may look like there's some teeth on there, but it's just they're trying to illustrate that there's a little bit of wave to it, but it is actually, if we look at it, it's going to be much more smooth and entire, so there's not going to be the teething. They are simple leaves, alternate, but the whole thing is if we look at the top of these leaves, we're going to see silver scales. And then when we flip them, we're going to see a lot of silver scales. So let us get looking at some of the things. As stated, this is an introduced species. This was brought over in the 1800s, I think it was about 1830s. And it is definitely very prolific in the eastern and central part of the United States. There is some isolated populations of it according to the USDA map. I highly encourage people to go out to USDA Plants Database. It's a really awesome resource. I'll put the link to that website in the description below. And this is a close-up of the flower. They're very small, not very big at all, considering, but they're actually going to be long. So we're going to look at a picture from the side. And if you see the top of these leaves, see all these little silver scales on it. And, just like if you would think about the art style known as pointillism brought to us by Joyce Surratt, and especially in the 1800s, I want to say he's the only person, but he's definitely well known for it. And from a distance, it gives the appearance that these have this silver sheen to them, but it is because of the silver scales, like dots. Now, these on the underside are going to be so concentrated that it's actually going to look like it's completely silver. So if we look at this picture on the left-hand side of the screen next to my silver nail polish, they look very similar. So you can definitely see how silver that is. And if we go to the right-hand side of the screen, we can see some of the silver dots up at the top up here. And we can also see some of the first fruits that are appearing on this. So we see that they're very green and they do look like olives. So you can see why they would end up calling it that. The other thing to note, the fruit is actually coming off of the branches. So we'll see that a little bit more up close in an upcoming slide. This is a close-up of the bark. This was from the USDA. So it's a really nice picture showing what the bark looks like, because we can identify a lot of our trees and shrubs by their bark. They're very, key characteristics, but this one has so many other features. And since we're not harvesting any parts of this except for when it's fruiting, it makes it pretty easy to identify based on features, and we don't have to rely upon the bark. Now, this is a really nice picture, a side view. It's also from the USDA. So thank you. And you can see how the flowers look, and they're very long, very kind of like funnels, if you will, but that's why they end up calling it umbel type looks as well. And you can see the silver scales forming on those leaves there as well. Now, this is what we're looking for. These are prime fruits to be consuming. We don't want to get them when they're green. We don't want to get them when they're orange. We don't want to get them when they're greenish yellow. We want to get them when they are red. And the reason there's red, and this is the key color, is that they are loaded in lycopene. Lycopene is an antioxidant, it's a phytochemical, it's a carotenoid. And these are very important to have in our diet. And, we always think about tomatoes and lycopene. There's also lycopene in the red watermelons and some other plants as well, fruits. Now, this one has been studied, and they state that this one has just so much more higher concentrations of lycopene than anything else. I have heard that it's 17 times the amount, but of course you can do your research on that. That is just something that I heard. I haven't actually vetted it myself, but it's definitely been proven that this actually has very high amounts of lycopene, which has definitely been proven to be very health promoting. Now, this is an illustration, and I just wanted to show this. They were trying to get the idea of the wavy margins, and they kind of put some teeth on it. That's not really what we're going to see when we go out, but it's a pretty picture nonetheless. Here's some other illustrations, and they do show that the leaves are entire. I do understand that the illustrators, which, I give them amazing credit because I can't draw very well at all. So those, I think, are absolutely beautiful. But we always have to keep in mind when we're looking at some of the illustrations that, they're trying to convey something, and sometimes it's really kind of hard to put in waviness and, teeth and hairs and on the illustrations, and sometimes it gets a little exaggerated. Anyway, with this, we know we're using the fruits. We know the size of this is going to be up to about 12 feet. You might see it a little shorter, a little, 8 feet, 10 feet. It's a deciduous shrub, so it means it's not as tall as a tree, but it is going to have bark. Edible uses, the fruits, they're going to be pulpy, sweet, tart. If you have them when they're not ripe, they're going to be very astringent. You don't want them then. You really do want to wait until they are fully ripe and at the peak of their freshness. You can, of course, have them raw. You can freeze them. You can throw them in your smoothies. You can make jam out of them, chutney, substitute for tomato and salsa. You can make fruit leather out of them. So if you have a dehydrator, it's a really great use. And then you can preserve it. We need to be saving our food as much as possible. Times are a little bit strange. Now, medicinally, the only thing I know of, there could be more, but it's the ripe red berries. They're going to contain those carotenoids we talked about. And again, they have high amounts of lycopene. Very good for us. Antioxidants are very important to neutralize free radicals that we encounter every single day. So, and we're going to find these almost anywhere. It's not going to be in the native woodlands, of course, because it isn't introduced. But, they planted these along roadsides. They planted these along riversides. So we may find them anywhere like that. I have definitely found them where I live in the mid-Atlantic states. There's a whole slew along the Youghiogheny River in western Maryland, along the riverbank. And maybe they put them there for erosion control. I have absolutely no idea. Maybe somebody thought they were pretty. All I know is that they are there, and they are lots of other places as well. So you may find them. And again, the lookalike that we talked about that's going to be the most significant lookalike is going to be the Russian olive, but it's edible in the exact same way. Do not consume anything unless it meets the characteristics in which we talk about, and you absolutely know that it's autumn olive. We're going to find a single, seed inside of this. So there's another way to identify. And again, the fruit, we're going to see it when it's unripe. It's going to be silver scaled and greenish yellow. It's going to ripen to that red. It's still going to be dotted with the silver or brown, depending. As it gets older, it's going to look a little more brown, those scales. The flowers are going to be pale yellowish white, much more on the whitish side. You're going to see yellow flowers if you're looking at a Russian olive. Now, do they hybridize? I have absolutely no idea. They might. They're fragrant, they're four-lobed corolla, and it's an important source of nectar for pollinators, so at least it has that going for it as well. The flowers are going to be small. They grow in clusters, as we have seen in some of the pictures and the illustrations. The leaves, they're going to be alternately arranged, elliptic to lanceolate. That means that lanceolate means lance-shaped. Now, when we look at the Russian olive, it's much more elongated and thinner type of leaves. Now, this one is, the leaves are smooth-edged, and the mature leaves are going to have a dense covering of the silver scales on the lower side. I mean, to the point where it literally looks silver. And the stems and the buds are also going to have silvery scales as well. This is the Russian olive. This is also called Silverberry, Oleaster, wild olive. And similar times that it's going to flower, May through July. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility there depending on your location, depending on what your year was like. Did you have an early spring? Did you have late spring? Was it cold? What was moisture content, etc.? Of course, this is non-native. This is also invasive, but it was brought over for similar reasons. This is the map showing where the Russian olive is, and it is a little bit more concentrated on the western side. We do have some on the eastern side as well. I don't think I've ever seen this. Now, the seeds on this one, and of course the fruits are a little more elongated than they are on the autumn olive, but you're going to see those characteristics with those silvery scales on this one as well. And these show the flowers and some of the fruits, but those are not ripe. So I don't have any pictures of my own. These are just things that I was able to get on the internet because I haven't seen this in my encounters as of yet, but hopefully one day I will. But if we look at the silver, I mean, it's very easy to tell. This one is really silvery. Very beautiful. Big fan of silver myself. So this is just another picture of the fruits. And this is about what we're going to see when we go out. There are some that are still green and they are transitioning to the red. And this is about what you're going to see mid-August, at least where I'm at, which is in the mountains of Virginia. And this is what we're hoping to see. And we want to get those ripe so we can be eating them and getting this healthy, very healthy fruit into our diet. This is free food, free medicine. I mean, we need our antioxidants. Better than taking vitamins is to actually, eat food and get our health and nutrition from those type of sources. All right, so let's go outside.
This is a great specimen of an autumn olive. This shrub is about 10 feet tall. Of course, we want to make sure we have a positive identification, so we're looking for simple, alternate leaves with silver scales on top and silver on the bottom. Let's make sure we have them. Simple, alternate. Got that. Let's check for the silver scales. Let's zoom in and check it out. Yep, definitely have those. Now we're going to flip it over just to make sure we have that silver on the other side. And we do. So we're doing really good. We definitely know this is an autumn olive. We know it's a shrub. We have all of those checked off. It's growing in an environment we expect, which is not deep in the woods. This was brought over. This is a non-native, as stated. And these are what the berries look like. Pretty sizable there. And that's about what you're going to expect to find. Is get my hand in there, is something like this. Now these aren't quite ripe yet, but they are getting to be. And if you look at this shrub, it has so many fruits on it. And the more of these fruits that you can go get, the better off it is for the environment, because this is how it's spreading its seed. So if you can collect these and eat them, then you are stopping the spreading of this invasive shrub. And you're getting some really great nutrition out of it, and some good free food. You can't really go wrong with any of those features. So this is a close-up of what the berries look like. These are not ripe at this present moment, but they will be. As you can see, some of them are starting to ripen up. These ones here are getting there. They're not ripe yet, but this is the time to learn the plant, to be able to get out there and make that positive identification. So when it is time, then you are picking it at its prime ripeness and being able to be prepared to do with it what you will, whether that's going to be making a jam, a chutney, or making fruit leather. And going alongside here, since we're already out here, we have red bud. It's a really good spring plant. Eat those little flowers. And there's also some other interesting plants to talk about once this car goes by. Or a white van. We got horse nettle down there. Do not eat those. Do not eat anything from Virginia creeper. There's some type of strawberries there. This could be mock strawberries or regular strawberries. I don't know. Didn't get a good close-up look. We do have chicory growing right there. Another nice one. A lot of chicory growing. Those actually look like strawberries because they are rather big. We do have some broadleaf dock growing here. Of course, I would not consume from this, waterway here with a plastic bottle, but it does give you an idea of what is growing here. You do have a smartweed there, probably a lady's thumb, because it does have the markings on it. So these are very common. So this is what we have growing alongside this road, and we have our autumn olive. See how it just blends in? I mean, wouldn't even notice that thing. But as we got up close, we realized it has a lot of fruit on it, and these fruits will be ripening very soon and can provide a lot of food. I mean, they blend in, but just in this section here, there are, I would say hundreds in this branches right through here. So you can collect quite a lot, and oftentimes when you do find autumn olive, you're not going to find one tree, you're going to find a few. And by tree, I mean shrub. You get what I'm saying. Okay, peace and love. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Like the video. Do whatever you need to do. Anyway, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And peace out, everyone.